Hello everyone, I welcome you to Drishti IAS, and we are dealing with the series of 100 most important topic for the environment and ecology UPSC Prelims 2026. I hope you must have watched the earlier videos as well in the sequence, because those videos, they are very leading to very foundation of the knowledge and the very important strategy for this UPSC Prelims 2026. So in this video, what we are going to have in the today's session, guys, so these are what the topics those are lying for us. Yes, I hope you are enjoying this discussion. I hope you are getting this discussion whatever we are having this video. So if you, and I have seen a lot of comments as well, okay, so you are commenting also, practice questions are being given, PYQs also being given, right, being discussed over here. So you equally have to answer them simultaneously, keeping that concept in understanding. So which are those topic, guys, we are now having discussion on today? See, these are those topic: air quality index, pollution control body, mainly CPCB, bioremediation, SDG, COP30, carbon border adjustment mechanism, global stocktake outcome, loss and damage fund, and methane emission. See, this today's topic, I believe, very important, guys, because that is somehow dealing with the international efforts in the domains of environment and ecology. So this point is really important, because for sure in the PYQs, as we have already discussed in the introductory session, international organizations, commissions or legislations, whatever you will find, convention, at least 2, 3, 4 questions every year like were asked on this topic. Okay, so we have to prepare well for this topic. Now starting with the first one, though air quality index is very not that much of India, but yes, most of those topics for today. Okay, air quality index, AQI. Now that is a very household term, I guess. We are almost all familiar with this AQI. So this AQI, that is simply was launched in 2009, guys. Okay, so 2009 it was basically launched, however on a very trial basis. What happened in 2015? The government of India, considering the very environmental awareness and the need to make people aware about their environmental rights and the status also of the environmental pollution, so it has almost made it for top 100 cities or major 100 cities, and then it has further been extended to other parts of the city country also. Okay, so under this air quality index, what you will find, various pollutants are to be monitored. Okay, like carbon monoxide, like you will find ozone, lead, methane, nitrous oxide, sulfur oxide. Okay, and there is basically list of this various you will find those pollutants cover per PM 2.5, PM 10, also ozone, carbon monoxide, ammonia, lead, benzene, benzone, pyrene, arsenic and nickel. Yes, so these are what the various pollutants are being monitored, and though their scale, though they are traced on a very different level, but they are again traced on or converted into one single scale, and the one that has the highest concentration is to be AQI for that particular day over that particular region. So this AQI is rather a scale 0 to 500. Okay, and even you can go beyond 500, that is very hazardous equally. So 0 to 50 meaning good, 51 to 100 meaning moderate, and these are rarely you will find good day in the overall last 365 days are hardly 2 or 3. Yeah, that is the status of developing countries like India. Yeah, then you will find 101 to 150 unhealthy, 51 to 200 unhealthy, equally very unhealthy and hazardous, like 400 and above. So this AQI, guys, is a cumulative, or simply you will find a monitoring of all these pollutants, and the highest one then considered as that particular AQI. Now see, WHO equally you will find had its own AQI and quality measurements also. Guidelines, WHO guidelines were issued. Now this was the PYQ basically asked in 2016, and it is asking you which are among the following atmospheric gases are normally considered in calculating the value of AQI. Now if you are pretty much aware about, then guys, you will find carbon dioxide is not that form, monoxide is there, nitrogen oxide is there, sulfur oxide is there, So the thing is, and methane is basically not the part. Okay, so 2, 3 and 4 you will simplify the. Okay, then 2022 according to WHO air quality guidelines, 24-hour mean of PM 2 should not exceed 15 microgram per meter cube and PM 2 should not exceed 5 microgram per meter cube. That is a correct statement. Then in a year, the highest level of ozone pollution occurred during periods of inclement weather. No, it is not. It is generally during a normal year, and methane in that sense is very major responsible factor for ground level ozone formation. PM10 can penetrate the lung barrier and enter the bloodstream. No, it is PM 2.5 that rather enters into the blood barrier, है ना, and lung itself, and leading to the damage. Excessive ozone in the air can cause or trigger asthma. ठीक है, asthma. So answer is 1 and 4 to this question. So if you are clear with, now AQI practice question for you. Now go through and look for which body is rather releasing or implementing this particular case. I already let you know. So go through, tell me in the comment box. Next, pollution control body. See guys, pollution in India is however a very historical issue as we can consider. So 1970s we were having awareness about this. So 1974 there was Water Act considering the water pollution there, okay? And under this Water Act there was establishment of CPCB, Central Pollution Control Board, and the task that was given to this body is to monitor and is to control the pollution over here, right? So it was given mandate to control water pollution, to find, to inspect, to monitor, set the guidelines for water pollution. What happened however later in 1981, Air Prevention and Control Act was enacted, and it had given again mandate to control air pollution also. Yeah, 1981. What happened then? What happened then? In 1987, yes, in 1987, Amendment to the Air Act, it had lead to noise pollution as well, and that again the authority or mandate to control is given with the CPCB, Central Pollution Control Body. Okay, under this again under 1974 Act, SPCBs are there, State Pollution Control Board, right? And they are being given authority, again mandate to control the pollution at the state level also. So the CPCB again help you to devise guideline, monitoring of this pollution, inspection, okay, research and development about this pollution and all those means further, and representation of the country also, that is with this CPCB, a very foremost body guys in the domain of this environmental pollution and its control. Now there was a question in the PYQ 2018 on this CPCB and the NGT. However, I know NGT we haven't discussed, but even based on the general idea, because NGT is anyway in the current affair now, okay, so you can absolutely answer this. What is the difference between NGT and CPCB? The NGT has been established by an act, whereas the CPCB has been created by an executive order. No, NGT 2010 Act, CPCB by Water Act 1974. The NGT provides environmental justice and helps reduce the burden of litigation in the higher courts, whereas the CPCB promotes cleanliness of streams, wells, and aims to improve the quality of air in the country. Wo answer is 2 only. First is incorrect. Okay, so 2 only is what the right call, guys. Okay, then the practice question for this thing. Now look for what are the functions of CPCB. We will be discussing all this practice question, guys, in the next video, so be there in the next video also as well. Then next is, in order to provide solution to this pollution problem, then we have a method that is a very natural method itself, that is a nature based solution, one of the main of NBS, nature based solutions. Okay, NBS. So bioremediation, see bio, if you break this word you will find bio, it means life, yes, living, and remedy, it means solution. So solution to the problem of contemporary environmental challenges provided by means of life is bioremediation. Yeah, that is what a bioremediation is. And this bioremediation, guys, is very important mean to control pollution as of now, right? So for example, you will find oil zapper, right? You must have seen many a times oil spill over and that issues along the coast of India, along the coast of West India, East India, or there was emergency, oil emergency that was declared in the Black Sea itself by the Russia. Okay, so if oil pollution is there, you can use this bacteria developed by IIT, okay, IIT Bangalore, I guess, IIC Bangalore, I guess, okay, and that is a very function of this bacteria is to consume or feed itself on the oil, and so that you will find it will automatically degrade the oil there. And that is not the only case. You will find there are many micro, that is micro remediation, where you will find microbes are used for this purpose. Another type is phytoremediation. Phytoremediation, it means what? When plants are used for the pollution and its control or solving that environmental challenge. Then intrinsic remediation. Intrinsic remediation, it means if naturally that potential is lying within that body, within that microbe, within that plant, that is to be known as intrinsic remediation itself. And there are, naturally you will find there are many sources available for this case. Okay, so I hope bioremediation is clear. But remember, see, bioremediation, it cannot lead to zero altogether. See, again, almost like whatever you are doing or whatever impact that we have laid on the earth's surface, some traces would forever remain there itself. Okay, it will take some longer, however, to remove, but yes, those are in operation. Next, see, PYQ that was asked on this topic in 2017, important at this particular case, or you can connect it to the nature-based solution also, guys, very important. So in the context of solving pollution problem, what is the advantage of bioremediation? It is a technique for cleaning of pollution by enhancing the same biodegradation process that occurs in nature. Yes, that occurs in nature. Yes, any contaminant with heavy metals such as cadmium and lead can be readily and completely treated by bioremediation using microorganism. Don't you find, guys, this statement sounds extreme? Yeah, it is focusing on completely removal and any contaminant. No, there are various means that were needed. Genetic engineering can be used to create microorganisms specifically designed for bioremediation. Answer is correct. 1 and 3 is rather the correct. Okay, then the practice question for you. Let me know in the comment box what is your call for this question also. We will be discussing each of this practice question in the next episode. Then the most common, the most highlighted buzzword, however, in the world, that is SDG, and you must be, I guess, using it so extensively in your writing as well, answer writing and general explanation. SDG. So SDGs are basically preceded by MDGs. Their predecessor was like MDGs, Millennium Development Goals. Those were devised well back in 2000 that time, right? For again the 7 most important topics, targets set for the beginning of the 21st century. Okay, so 2020 it was basically, okay, and it was 2015, okay? And what then this MDGs were followed by SDGs. However, this SDG now represent a broader aspect that we want a sustainable development there. So in 2013, right, 15, you will find these goals were finally accepted by the United Nations General Assembly, and then it has accepted by almost every member of the United Nations. Under this SDG, what we are setting ourselves target for up to 2030, okay, 2030, we have set 17 targets with 169 sub targets under it, okay, and sub targets representing, representing a very way in which we are supposed to achieve each of them, okay. So each of them 70 are very much important, and in accordance with this, in order to trace SDG, Niti Aayog has also launched its own SDG index. Yes, Niti Aayog is also basically SDG index of its own for ranking our Indian states. So like the countries, like so is the, okay. So first is no poverty, second no hunger, third good health, fourth quality education, fifth gender equality, sixth clean water, then 7 affordability and clean energy, decent work and economic development, 8, 9 industries and innovation, 10 reduced inequalities, 11 sustainable cities and communities, 12 responsible consumption and production also, 13 climate action, 14 climate life below water, 15 life on land, 16 peace, justice, and 17 partnership for the development, sustainability. So this 17 SDGs are very much important, guys. While writing answer, you can use them, okay, and for the case of prelims, you are fine, these are equally important. Now this is a very practical practice question for you. Let me know your answer in the comment. Next, the most highlighted, however, and for almost every prelims you will find that is very much important, that is UNFCCC COP30, Conference of Parties 30s. This is very landmark summit, however, that is being held every year for the by the UNFCCC for the protection of environment, climate, and the climate change related issues. So this COP30 Belém, Brazil, okay, Belém, Brazil, it was being held, and here the very focus was on the implementation rather than merely targets. So under this Belém conference, you will find global mutual agreement was signed again with the initiative of the Brazil, under which you will find that instead of setting huge targets, the chest thumping targets, you should focus more on implementation itself. That is what this global mutual agreement. Okay. Then just transition mechanism. What does that mean by this? Just transition mechanism simply represents that you have to build your capacity and a stakeholder participation, and thus the transition from this unsustainable development to sustainable development should be ensured. That is what just transition mechanism. Then Belém 4x plan. What is 4x plan? That you should be using 4 times more sustainable fuel, 4 times more sustainable fuel by 2030 itself. That is Belém 4x plan. And then TFFF, Tropical Forest Forever Facility, under which tropical forest conservation, or more appropriately rainforest conservation initiatives have to be taken. Again, lead is taken by the Brazil. Okay, so these are the various you will find initiatives, those have been undertaken under the COP30, and I can assure you, I am telling you, you will find one for almost alternate year question that would be asked on this COP itself. Very, very important summit, guys, remember. Okay, like in 2025 there was question around statement 1 at the 28th COP. India refrained from signing the declaration on climate and health. India refrained itself from, because it was a binding agreement, and the thing is, it being binding, it was having some restrictions on our developmental status, and being developing country, we cannot allow our health sector to get ruined. Okay, again, for the sake of only climate and health commitment, we have given them those commitment by various other means also. So COP28 declaration on climate and health is binding declaration. If it's signed, it becomes mandatory to decarbonize the health sector. Yes, and if India's health sector is decarbonized, the resilience of this healthcare system may be compromised. Yes, so they both are correct, and statement 1 explains statement 2. So answer is A. Okay, so that is what that was asked in 2025. Then again, international initiatives say, yeah, however, unfair practices also, that is what India called it as, developing countries call it as carbon border adjustment mechanism. See what happened, guys, in the EU has set herself target to get green net zero by 2040, US 2050, China 2060, India 2070. Fine. So what now, EU, if it is going to be carbon neutral or net zero by 2040, but because of its import from other countries, right, like those are having target well beyond that 2040, so it is equally, see what these buyers are doing, they are instead of, so here some restrictions are being put on the producer in the EU, so they have to pay some higher prices. Fine. And the producer, those are away from the EU border, they are rather, having less restrictions and less fine to pay. So their product is comparatively cheaper, and that is rather, affecting the producers here in the EU. Plus the carbon offsetting is there. Instead of production in the EU, it is rather produced somewhere else. So there is no, in that sense, for the overall earth, the overall production of carbon would rather remain same. Why? So what EU did, again within the border of WTO, WTO taxation regime, what it has, implemented this carbon border mechanism by January 26. It is to be implemented in full-fledged manner. So if you are non-EU producer of carbon, aluminium, cement or metal and other, this way, so and if you are polluting industry, then you have to pay some border carbon tax there, carbon border tax, that is also to be known as. So you have to make, for that matter, the certificates, the CBAM certificate, and if you don't, you have to pay the additional price. Yeah, that is what this carbon border adjustment mechanism. Now, if you are pretty much clear with the CBAM, right, that is what a practice question for you. Let me know your answer in the comment box. Easy, guys, only you need to be clear with. Then global stocktake mechanism. Now what does it mean by global stocktake mechanism? See, again under Paris deal, we have set ourselves like an ambitious target to be achieved by 2030. So every country is under the principle of nationally determined contribution, voluntary contributions on their own. What they have decided by 2030, they would be limiting this release. Yeah, but how we can ensure that this, whatever target that has been set by that particular country, would rather be on track, expected line? And if it is not, then how, by the end of that particular 2030, how you will anyway going to correct it? So there is what a mechanism, that mid-term calculation or mid-term analysis or calculation or stocktake itself. Okay, this calculation is itself a stocktake. So after every 5 years, what again under Paris deal, it was expected to have the stocktake mechanism after every 5 years, so that if any country, right, if not fulfilling or it is not on the right track, he can have, or he or that particular have, a corrective action in. Okay, so this report, this global stocktake mechanism or outcomes are very, very important. In the G20 summit that was being that was held in India, New Delhi, so there was a global stocktake report that was published, and according to it, see, stocktake needs to be ensured, and the stocktake was not on the, if the present rate of emission of the carbon, if rather would continue, no country would, or rarely few country would able to achieve their final target, yeah, or their set targets. So that is the reason we have to make it sure that whatever targets we have given, needs to get analyzed or needs to verified again in between the process. Same goes for your study also. So don't look for your target to be achieved only in bit, like at the year end itself. No, keep your stocktake in between. So that is after 5 years for this Paris deal. Okay. Now see, that was question again 2025. Article 6 of the Paris Agreement on Climate Change is frequently discussed in the global discussion on sustainable development and climate change. Yes, that is about the carbon market, carbon trading. Article 6 of the Paris Agreement on Climate Change sets out the principle of carbon markets, yes, and Article 6 of the Paris Agreement on Climate Change intends to promote inter-country non-market strategies to reach their climate target. Okay? So here, yes, they are basically what the one, right? And equally, you have to, like, the statement one is correct, and the one among them, right? They are basically correct. Okay? Then the practice question for you, that is associated with. Okay, so that question is basically dealing with the overall stocktake and carbon release, okay, carbon market. Now, then loss and damage fund. Now, guys, loss and damage fund is simply that is connected with the carbon climate change. Sorry. So, because of the climate change, the developing countries, you know, they are at the worst facing this impact, and particularly island nations, right? So, because these countries, least developing countries and island nations are facing a huge damage, their overall survival threat, existential threat they do have. So, there needs to, you know, there should be compensation for them to this climate change and equally its adaptation. So this is what loss and damage fund was basically created in the 2022 UNFCCC COP26, 27 in Egypt, and that was again, the fund was created with the intention to help developing countries and those island nations also for dealing them with and equally the damage that was carried due to the climate change. So that is created under the World Bank, and that overlooks the overall fund and its operation. But recently in the current affair, US equally withdrew from this loss and damage fund. Yes, so US withdrew itself from the loss and damage fund, and it was one of the largest contributor for this loss and damage fund. Okay, so remember, that is very much important. Next, the practice question, guys. So loss and damage fund intends to, okay, look for what this is. Then the methane emission, global methane pledge. Okay, so global methane pledge. See, guys, methane is 90 times more potent than CO2 for greenhouse gas effect. So no doubt carbon dioxide is the major gas that is contributing for greenhouse gas effect, but methane, it's very, the second largest contributor for greenhouse gas. Okay, so the thing here is what the methane emission needs to be controlled well. Okay, so see, the methane emission is mainly by means of, the largest producer is however agriculture, and here again paddy cultivation is the major one, paddy, sugarcane, and the faulty agriculture practices are rather the most important contributor for this. Remember one thing, that methane has shelf life of 7 to 10 years, right? So once it releases into the atmosphere, it will at least take 7 to 12 years, unlike plastic. Plastic takes thousands of years rather to get decomposed itself. So methane emission is basically what global methane pledge. Countries have taken this pledge at the COP21, that is the Glasgow Climate Summit in the Britain, and then they have decided to have target to reduce 30% of methane by 2030 of 2020 level. Okay, so that is what the target. But remember, because we are developing country and we have already set ourselves target for net zero carbon and other targets, so we have not committed ourselves for this global methane pledge. So remember, okay, India is not party to this convention. Okay, now PYQs first. Among the following crops, which are the most important anthropogenic source of both methane and nitrous oxide? Yes, answer is rice. Yes, always look for rice, and then you can connect with the sugarcane also. Which one of the following statements correct about the methane hydrate? Right, that is not exactly about methane, but yes, that is again about the energy resource as methane hydrate. Global warming might trigger with the release of methane gas from this deposit. Yes, that is correct. Large deposits of methane hydrate are found in Arctic tundra and under the sea floor itself, and methane is an atmospheric oxidase to carbon dioxide after decade or two. Okay, so basically the answer to this is, okay, so look for, guys, this particular methane is very important, and considering the global methane pledge, that is again very significant. Okay, a simple practice question has been given to you. Now let me know all your answer in the comment box, and we will be discussing it in the next session. So this is what about for this particular session of 100 most important topic, guys. I hope you are enjoying. I hope you are equally answering it also, and you are getting it. So having any doubt, yes, let me know in the comment box, and do participate, be regular, and I can assure you, you will have a good news. Thank you.
For more informative content, like, share and subscribe, and do not forget to press the bell icon to get the notifications.